So how do I know when my clay is ready to use?
So the way that you would know whether your clay is workable or not is based on handling it. When you take that clay and you make it into a ball and you start to squeeze that into shape, if it immediately cracks or kind of like doesn't have give to it, it probably doesn't have enough moisture content to build with. If you roll it in your hands and more of the clay is left on your hands than the actual physical material, then it's probably a little bit too wet to work with.
Do you love clay?
I love clay so much. Yeah, I think that clay is one of those things that it's like love at first sight, that idea of the second I interacted with the material, it kind of hit all of the things for me. It's tactile, it's responsive, it can essentially do anything that you want. It has boundaries, but if you work within those boundaries, you can really make it do things that you wouldn't even believe.
What is overworking clay?
So I think the term overworking clay really refers to working the clay to a point where it's so dry, but you're still trying to make major change to the material. Either we need to start out with a wetter material to get it into this like overarching shape, or we need to work a little bit faster.
How do I fire pottery without a kiln?
Fire a pot in the most rudimentary way possible. You would dig a small hole in an area that's really controlled. Don't want anybody to burn their house down, but you would dig a small pit. You would place your clay object into that pit, and you would start a small kindling fire in a ring around that object. And you would build a fire on top of that. Once the fire was really going, you would then cover that fire over with earth, and you would allow it to cool, usually for several days. And then you would dig it out, and you would have a fired object.
Can I paint my pottery?
You can apply what is called a cold finish to pottery, which is using like a traditional acrylic paint or paint onto the surface, but it does not have the same effect that applying a glaze would have to the vitrification of the object, meaning keeping it to be watertight.
Can I eat off of all these pots?
Food safety is a really open-ended question, and ultimately it comes down to the materials that you used and how hazardous they are. For the most part, if we dig clay out of the ground and that clay is not from a contaminated area and we fire that clay to a reasonable temperature, you can generally eat off of the pottery.
What's the best way to make sure my pottery is food safe?
First, go back and look. If you're working with commercial materials, those commercial materials should say on them that they are food safe after firing or not suitable for contact with food. So that's a great place to start. If you have something that is marketed as food safe, there is sort of a really rudimentary test that you can do where you can cut a piece of lemon, or you can use some vinegar or something acidic, and you would leave it on the surface of your pottery for a day. If you remove the acidic material from the surface of your clay or your glaze, and there is no change, it is an indicator that it is food safe.
Why does my pottery sometimes have pinholes in the glaze?
Pinholing specifically is usually that the clay has organic material or vapors that are coming off of it during the firing. If the glaze seals over before all of those vapors have left, it often leaves behind something called a pinhole.
Are there any health risks with doing pottery?
There are absolutely health risks with doing pottery, all of which can be avoided by maintaining a clean and orderly studio. Our number one health risk from clay is crystalline silica, which is a very fine material that is present in clay, and it poses an inhalation risk. So to avoid that, we really want to clean wet, and we want to create as little dust as possible. When we are doing something that creates dust, like sanding bisqueware or something like that, we want to do it in a well-ventilated area while wearing a KN95 mask. Generally, a healthy respiratory system is capable of filtering out a lot of material, and our body is very good at filtering these things out.
What skills would be good to have before doing clay or to work on to get better at clay?
I see people come in at all different levels, and I think a lot of it has to do with hand-eye coordination and fine motor skill. People whose daily life includes things that use fine motor skill tend to be better at pottery from the start. But clay is a really, really good tool to build fine motor skill, to build fine muscle memory. Even if you don't have those skills coming in, you're gonna build those skills really quickly in this material.
What do you love most about teaching people?
It's sort of like the beginnings of a romantic relationship. In the beginning, it is awesome to see this like relationship being built with clay. It's tactile, it's engaging. When I talk about teaching a younger demographic of people, the like sort of quote unquote problem student is like the most engaged student within the classroom because they're tactily engaged and they're oftentimes sort of like finding flow for the first time, which is sort of this idea of being lost in something. I'm so passionate about clay that I just absolutely love sharing my passion for clay with other people who are even slightly interested in clay. If you have any questions, comment below. I'll be happy to help.